Time to update my 2-year-old review of Jurassic World Evolution 2. Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. 2 years ago when Jurassic World Evolution 2 first came out, I made a simple short review of the game, and the TLDR of that first review was that Frontier weren't making the same mistakes again, but were making entirely new ones. But that was 2 years ago, and since then we have had a huge number of DLCs and free updates, so I think it makes sense to update the review. Now, since I want to make a full review at the end of the dev cycle, this won't be massively in depth, but more of an update, and I'm going to divide the review between what's good, what's bad, and what's damn right ugly. Let's start with the positives, shall we? The UI improvements for Jurassic World Evolution 2, which incorporated the stacked menus with a more subtle colour and a greater division between types of structure, remains something good about JWE2. Compared to JWE1, the whole game feels more modern and streamlined, and you get more of that screen back. The main menu itself is also more modern than the original and comes with that species viewer, which, while should be part of the in-game experience, it does at least allow players to view skins and every animal and find their favourites. In addition to the updated UI, I have to accept that the game itself looks great. This goes hand in hand with the brand new biome feature. At last, no more lime green islands with green trees. Now we have a variety of different biome types with unique weather events, terrain textures and foliage. This, I think, is one of the biggest improvements when compared to Jurassic World Evolution 1. The ability to build in different environments really makes for a refreshing experience if you are someone who played Jurassic World Evolution 1 as much as I did. And this joined by graphics overhauls that sharpens how the games look, and everything is just a bit crisper. The animals themselves also have to be discussed. Returning animals from Jurassic World Evolution 1 have been greatly improved by the addition of the new 72 skin system, allowing greater control over the look of the creature. New additions to the game, including the pterosaurs, aquatics, and the small number of new dinosaurs like the Amargasaurus, add some interesting creatures to the hatchery list. The animal loadout ends up a varied mixture of size, shape, and colour. It should also be noted that with DLC included, the animal list is not only bigger than JWE1's, but also includes unique non-Mesozoic era animals in the shape of Dimetrodon, Dunkleosteus, and Lystrosaurus. The additions of the modular aviaries and modular lagoons was also a good thing, even if there's some issues with it that we'll discuss in a minute. But in general, the idea of being able to easily build these structures and modify their interiors is a good one, and again comes hand in hand with an expanded animal roster that now includes multiple species of pterosaur and aquatic animals from throughout prehistory. And while it required multiple free updates, JWE2 now does finally have extensive building sets and decorative pieces to build parks with far greater options for building them than the first game. Everything from decorative fountains to dinosaur statues and even more industrial parts for those sorts of parks. It should also be noted that PC players do also have the option for mixed foliage choices, allowing us to decorate our parks with most of the trees and plant options that exist in the game, including those wonderful orange and red trees from Pennsylvania. It should also be noted that the range of maps that we can build on in sandbox mode and the range of challenge maps is far greater than the first game. Not only do we have many more maps, but we now also have those wonderful square maps, which can be transformed into any sort of landscape you could want. And now we have those expanded options for challenge mode maps, allowing players to tailor their experience, and it adds some much needed replayability. Now all these are good points, so let's move on to the bad. So on to what is not so great, and here we have to start being honest about much of JWE2. While the lagoons and aviaries were good additions in theory, their implementation has been less great. Lagoons initially came with no decorations and full of bugs. It took multiple free updates to finally give us some lagoon decorations which, while good to get for free, did come with their own issues. Take that huge natural lagoon we got in the Malta DLC. We don't really have any decorative pieces that are large enough to fill all that space. Really big lagoons are just not viable to get decorated with the pieces that we have, and the lagoon pieces themselves cannot be altered. We can't change the colour of the horrid brutalist concrete, we can't change the water depth or colour, and although the community has constantly asked for some lagoon foliage, it remains just a nice fort, as does a dedicated tour for them. Then we have the aviaries, which, while we can modify the insides a lot more than the lagoons, are also restricted. You can't alter the terrain heights inside them very well, and when it comes to bugs, the aviaries are among the buggiest parts of the game. Pterosaurs will constantly get stuck in place in aviaries, an issue that's plagued the game since day one, and will starve themselves to death. A bug you can only sort out by tranking the animal in question and moving it. That's if they stay in the aviaries in the first place. Numerous issues with pterosaurs phasing through their cages and out into the wild have led me to be convinced they're all ghosts of their past selves. And this segues nicely into the question of bugs in the first place. Jurassic World Evolution 2 is still riddled with them. One of my favourites from a session of gameplay that lasted just 3 hours was when one of my lagoon shark feeders failed to refill its shark and just left the tail hanging there. However, it was so bugged that every Kronosaurus still attempted to eat from the feeder, leading to a line of Kronosaurs stuck in the first part of their animation loop waiting for a shark that never came. This was a new bug for me, but certainly not the only one that I've experienced with the lagoons or its animals. As an experiment, I went to Reddit to ask the community for its bug reports, and boy did they come through. Most common bugs that were reported were regarding animals phasing through the fences or animals getting stuck. Someone reported a tail of their Spinosaurus that clipped into the ground. There was another wonderful report of a flying mosasaur species that left the lagoon entirely, and broken marine decorations floating. Dinosaurs drinking but not getting any water, helicopters getting stuck in place for minutes at a time, and ranger vehicles also getting stuck. This is just a sample. The fact is, this game is full of many bugs, many that have been there since day one, and have never been fixed. What is annoying is that through purchasing all of the DLCs, I've spent an extra £63 on JWE2, or essentially paid for the game again just in DLC, and yet these bugs remain. Animation also remains a problem in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Yes, sure, the animals don't all stand around in a triangle and socialize as they used to in Jurassic World Evolution 1, but that doesn't mean the quality of the animations the animals have are much better. Animals still wait for their companion to move into the correct position to start the animation loop, usually with some very bone-twisting snap movements, before the animation can play, and then it ends in a very unnatural way. The way that animals pop and snap into place so the animation can play totally ruins any of the immersion for me. That's on top of having the same animation play multiple times over and over because the animals don't have many animations in general. There are also multiple species that have animations either copy-pasted from one species to another, or are so similar that it makes no difference. The new lagoon animal behavior animations we got highlights this problem, with multiple species having similar or identical animation loops, and that's without mentioning the moonwalking carnivores. Poor quality animations just take you out of the game, along with the bugs and glitches, turning gameplay into a frustrating mess of fixing these broken animals. Then we get to the selling back of cut content. Now, part of this was not Frontier's fault. COVID-19 pushed back the release of Jurassic World Dominion, and it was clear when Jurassic World Evolution 2 released that there were clear gaps in content where the Dominion content should have been. JWE1 was in a similar position, and gave us the Fallen Kingdom species for free when the film released. It was assumed that we would get something for Dominion's release for free. Note that I say something, not all. When the Dominion DLC did release, not only was the entirety of the film's content split between two different DLCs, but we got nothing for free. The whole thing was sealed behind paywalls. This felt like the typical predatory DLC behaviour that companies like EA engage in, where content is clearly cut out of games so it can be sold back to us. You can also see this in the fact that the Huangosaurus, one of the most popular animals from the first game, was sealed in the Deluxe Edition pack, the only Jurassic World Evolution 1 species who was locked in that pack. While I think Frontier's DLC and free update policy is generally good, these elements are not. Then we have the degradation of the Jurassic World Evolution 2 campaign, which is more like a series of tutorial missions because Frontier hyper-focused on challenge mode and their much hyped Chaos Theory mode. And I'm going to be blunt here, Chaos Theory was a fucking waste of time. When the game released, the 5 Chaos Theories we got were 3 bland park building missions, 1 mass deletion simulator, and 1 dinosaur movement simulator. None of the Chaos Theory missions added anything new or unique. Challenge mode was improved, yes, as was Sandbox, but it is still a shame we don't have an island hopping long form campaign like we did in Jurassic World Evolution 1. Now with the bads done, let's discuss the truly awful. While the game certainly introduces a range of improvements compared to the first game, it has been joined by an unfortunate enemy, and a word that gamers all over know all too well: optimization. Jurassic World Evolution 2 runs as smoothly as a box full of plates being dropped down the stairs. Inconsistent frame rates, bugs and crashes are commonplace even on PC. Those on console reportedly have it worse, with console overheating problems, save file corruptions, and even worse frame rate inconsistency. And it's not a question of hardware. YouTubers like Evo, who run powerful gaming rigs with the most up-to-date hardware, have similar problems of inconsistent frame rates, among other issues. In fact, my own rig, while only a middle-of-the-line rig, completely blows the minimum and recommended requirements for the game out of the water, and yet I still have to run the game on medium or even low settings in some areas, and run it with Nvidia's DLSS on, which upscales resolutions from lower render qualities, in order to get anything near a stable frame rate. And nothing helps improve the quality of how it runs. For a game that costs on all platforms upwards of 50 and sometimes even closer to 60 quid, the fact it can't run well on any of those systems is just not good enough. And 2 years down the line, the game runs worse than it ever did on day one. In terms of gameplay, the new scientist system that Frontier added, and again was much hyped, in reality was nothing more than a way of extending the grindy gameplay. The problem is that the system is as shallow as a puddle. Scientists are required for everything no matter the task. There's no differentiation between tasks. Then they remove the option for you to send out more than one expedition at a time. The research tree has also been changed, removing the freedom of choice for you for what you research at the time, replaced with a tree-based system that forces you to research stuff you don't want or need. Medical treatments are now often locked behind strange arbitrary tasks instead of allowing you to research them ahead of time. Carnivore feeders won't be available to you until you actually make a carnivore. How stupid is that? In fact, there are so many aspects of gameplay that Jurassic World Evolution 2 has altered to make the grind worse than the first game. Making animals is now slower due to the 2-part process that requires scientists to pass. Medical issues require identifying, then the animals require tranking, then moving to the vet building and then cured with scientists. Generators that you use for power initially require refueling, as do your ranger buildings. Scientists require holidays that you have to pay for. Everything about Jurassic World Evolution 2's basic gameplay is designed to slow it down and make you wait more and more time to progress. This makes the grind worse and slower, in my opinion, than Jurassic World Evolution 1's grind. So with the goods, the bads and the ugly points out of the way, what are my closing thoughts about Jurassic World Evolution 2 at this time? I think Jurassic World Evolution 2 represents a missed opportunity to create a really great sequel for the first game. JWE2 in many respects feels like a launch of version of a game that Jurassic World Evolution 1 was the beta test for. So much of the second game is copy-pasted from the first, with the actual new content fairly limited until you start investing money in the DLCs. So many of the new aspects like the scientist system and lagoons feel untested. The general prevalence of bugs that make gameplay generally frustrating adds on to the lack of optimization that can really hamper your gameplay experience. Don't get me wrong here, There are many things to like about this game. The variety of building options and decorative options is such a refreshing feature compared to Jurassic World Evolution 1, and while the animals come with their fair share of bugs and problems, they remain like the first game a triumph. The new environments, maps and UI additions are equally as refreshing. It is worth playing, but with a few caveats in my opinion. Firstly, buy it on PC and make full use of not only proper mixed eras and reduced restrictions with park building, but also the option to use mods. Kyodenic's Move It mod really enhances the general gameplay, while his expanded sandbox option removes some of the more annoying aspects of sandbox play. Also make sure you have a PC that's fairly hefty on hardware to make those optimization issues less of a problem. Don't expect to run this game well on a potato system. Hopefully by the time the game ends its development cycle, some of my problems with this game will have been improved. What do you think about Jurassic World Evolution 2? Have you encountered some of the bugs? Do you think the game is too grindy? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe for more content from all of us at Tricore Gaming, and until next time, stay safe and goodbye.